There we go. Got one on the spoon. Rainbow trout are definitely one of our most popular fish. Oh, this is a tiger. Trout are definitely one of the most popular ice fishing fish in the western United States, and that's just because they're so widely introduced. So today I thought I'd talk about what I look for in a ice fishing rod for trout. Little tiger trout. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about what I look for in a trout rod. And I'm specifically referring to your typical trout, rainbow, brook, cutthroat, brown, that are in that 14 to 20 inch range, widely planted across the western United States and across the whole United States. They're very popular game fish, widely planted. That's why they're very popular to target to the ice. So let's talk about rod material first. Now, for almost all of my trout fishing needs, I'm going to rely on a graphite rod. Graphite is a faster material, so it returns back. You get very good hook sets. These fish tend to slash at the baits, especially if you're jigging or using small spoons. So I like to be able to have that quick hook set. Additionally, I tend to use automatic hook setters. So again, some of those hook setters rely on the tension of the rod itself, and that's where, again, that fast action of graphite is an advantage. However, if you're running a dead stick rod, then you might want to look at glass. So if you're just going to have a piece of bait hanging down there on a dead stick, not on an automatic hook setter or anything, then that slower action of a glass rod is going to be better, because it's going to allow the fish to not feel the resistance of the rod as much. I'll chew on the bait a little bit and swim away with it before the hook drives itself home. Which leads me into my second thing, which is rod length. So if you're going to run a dead stick glass rod, use a longer one, because that's going to allow the rod to load up a little bit better. Let you get over there. The rod will be fighting the fish a little bit more effectively for you and tiring the fish out while you're trying to get your other gear reeled up or run over to it. However, when I am using graphite, the length is going to vary depending on the type of fishery I'm doing. So this is all about fishing style. If you're a person like me who tends to sit at a hole on a bucket or on their knees and actively jig for trout, then that 25 to 30 inch is generally ideal. So this is a 28 inch rod here. I find that perfect for sitting over the hole, crouching over the hole, or maybe fishing in a shelter. If you're somebody who likes to run and gun and tends to stand while they fish, a little bit longer rod might actually be more of an advantage. It's a little bit more comfortable to stand away from the hole than directly over the top of it. And then you might be looking in that 28 to 35 inch rod length. So it just really depends. If you are fishing more in sitting positions or in shelters, then keep it below 30 inches. If you're more run and gun, stand and fish, then probably over 30 or near 30 is going to be better for you. Okay, let's talk about guides. I think guides are a really severely overlooked feature of ice rods. Okay, so these rods here, these are some custom rods from Thorne Brothers. They use titanium wire guides, so they're very thin wire guides. If they ice up, all I gotta do is flick them, and the ice pops right off, no problem. Even on cheaper rods like this $8 HT Ice Blue Noodle rod, they're using stainless steel wire style guides. So they're not very thick, so they don't gather ice. There's no insert in there, it's just a stainless steel ring, and that's really what you're looking for. Because what happens is, if you look, for example, on this rod here, this is a medium light rod from Tailored Tackle, is they got the graphite right, they got the action right. Generally, I'm looking for that medium to medium light power for most of our trout fisheries. It's hard to say between companies because every company ranks their power a little bit differently. So generally, medium to medium light is good. But you'll notice they use little ceramic inserts in their guides. These things ice up like crazy, and worst of all, what happens is they had one in here in the end on the tip of the rod, and of course I was flicking ice out of it over and over and over again, and eventually the ceramic piece just popped out, and now I've got a sharp edge here. I can't use this rod, I got to replace the tip top. So look for those ice fishing rods without ceramic insert guides. These are really for open water fishing, not for ice fishing in my opinion. Now let's talk about handle style. Now there's lots of variability in terms of handle designs. You'll see split grips, you'll see smaller single piece grips. that's not such a big issue to me. The real issue is, how does the reel attach to the rod? Now, most rods that you'll see have the traditional style, especially the mass-produced ones, have the traditional style where it twists in and out and it sits in a designated spot. I do not like this. The reason why is I want to be able to customize the placement of my reel on my handle. Because there's different handle designs, people have different size hands. I mean, there's some people have really big hands, some people have tiny hands, and there's different styles of ice reels. So, for example, you know, here's a spinning one, here's an inline. I'm going to place these a little bit different. You can see I'm fishing them differently because the way I handle them is going to be different, because this free fall jig has this little trigger here. I want to be able to access that. So I want to be able to handle the rods in a specific way, and I want that reel in a specific spot. If I have to place it, if I'm forced to place it, I can't customize it. And you just use a couple pieces of electrical tape. I've never had a reel come off. This tape's been on here for years. So I really prefer the ones that you can tape in, because then it depends on, how do you like to grip? Do you like to grip like this? Or do you like to jig like this? So I like to jig like this a lot. So I can click right here and jig. So really, I think that the ones that you have to tape the reel onto are better, because it allows you to customize it to your hand size, to your fishing style, to your reel style. So look for those. And the last bit I'm going to touch on is, I kind of talked about power, and most of the time trout are pretty aggressive biters. But there are days they can be finicky, especially for fishing bait. They just nibble, really drive you crazy. So it might be a good idea to have a spring bobber tied in, or optionally have one of those ones you can attach to the end of the rod on those slower days. 9 times out of 10, I really don't need a spring bobber for trout fishing, but on some days it does make a difference. All right, so I'm going to put links to some of my favorite ice fishing trout rods below. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll help you out in the comment section. Otherwise, I'll see you next time out on the ice. Just remember, fish smarter, not harder. Bye, guys.